This is Neal Freyman, managing editor at Morning Brew.
Thank you so much for coming on, man. Glad we were able to connect over the last couple of weeks and turn this around in a short time frame. So thanks again, man.
Yeah, it's great to be on your podcast.
Appreciate it, man. Cool. So, for those that don't know, they heard it at the top there. You work for Morning Brew. It's a kind of a business newsletter, but you guys have, opened it up into a bunch of different spaces as well, marketing, e-commerce, retail, tech. I've been following you guys for a while. Love what you do, especially the level of consistency. You guys just day in and day out, very succinct, very well done. Want to get to that in a second, but before we get there, would love to kind of learn a little bit more about your background and kind of how you came to be, the managing editor at Morning Brew.
Sure. I mean, honestly, I'm just kind of a regular guy. I grew up in Massachusetts, an hour and a half west of Boston. So I have to say Massachusetts and not Boston because everyone immediately goes to Boston, but it's a town called Longmeadow right next to Springfield and also close to Hartford.
Got you.
So cool place. I went to regular high school, then I went to University of Maryland for college, which was a lot of fun. And it's right next to DC. So we hopped down to DC, big sports school, lots of stuff going on, tried to get involved there.
Yeah.
Didn't really know what I wanted to do in life, probably like most college students. I studied history and did various clubs, but still was like, I really don't know what I want to do. I'd always liked reading the news and writing, but it wasn't something that I actively was thinking about pursuing professionally. I wrote a few columns for the school newspaper there, but it was mostly, what I would do on the side and didn't put a whole lot of effort into it, even though I liked it. After school, I taught at another school, another high school, and then I went to school for urban planning to go for a master's in economic development and urban planning at Temple in Philly. And I always, that had been always like a big passion of mine, walking around cities and making sure that they're human focused. So I worked in that field for a year before Morning Brew until I saw a LinkedIn post from Alex Lieberman, the CEO of Morning Brew. I had a few connections to the company, did not read it, didn't really know much about business news, but I read the newsletter and I was thinking, you know what, I think I could do this. Yeah, I like making jokes about the news and writing, and I always just love reading all types of sources and a lot of different types of news. And Morning Brew really drew on anything from like merger and acquisition to a study to the Fed to startups. And it like it seemed like a good place for me to like learn about a ton of different things. So I applied, and initially the company rejected me and they went with another writer. So I was kind of bummed, but they actually couldn't come to an agreement with the other writer. So I was the second place. And and it's a testament to when they reject you, always send a nice email afterwards.
Absolutely.
So
Definitely.
I sometimes go back to that email that I sent Alex. I was like, damn, well, that it kind of sucks that I didn't get it, but let's stay in touch. I really like what you guys are doing. And then a few months later, he got back to me and said, you know what, let's do it.
Nice.
Um, so the rest is history. I moved up to New York. We were in a little incubator at NYU, just 3 or 4 of us. And then we went to a few WeWorks, hopped around there, and grew from 4 to 6 to 10 to 15 to 25. And now we're over 85. So that's kind of the story.
Wow, man. Wow. I gotta say, I just came across Morning Brew probably within the last year, definitely like 10 months ago. I came across
Yeah.
it, but you guys have been around for the last few years, really kind of steadily growing. And yeah, that's awesome, man. I love there's 2 things that you talked about there, which I really love. It's really just number one, being curious to learn about new stuff that you don't know and really just jumping in like, oh, this could be a great opportunity. And when you're young, fresh out of school or just unsure of what you want to do, that's like the best time to do it. It's like you should be trying a whole bunch of different stuff to like see what sticks and what doesn't. And I think especially for what, you know, I talk about and who I help in artists, that's like something great. That to me, that's just a different level of creativity. You know what I mean? It's like tilting the focus a little bit and being like, hey, you know, it's just about trying new things to see what works. And it's just a tactic, right? You know, it's like you just try those new tactics to see what sticks. And it's great that you found that thing that you really enjoy doing. So you've been there for the last couple of years. Curious to know, you know, and you guys are actually one of the biggest like independent newsletters out there. You guys have like 2.5 million subscribers on the Morning Brew one, which is just amazing. So I'm sure you've covered a ton of different stories over the years. Do you have a favorite story that you wrote and, you know, somebody read it and hit you up about it, or just like any kind of crazy stories or just fun and nice stories about working there?
There's a few that come to mind. One is every March Madness, we used to publish this story that about a study that said that there were a lot more vasectomies during this week of March Madness than any other week of the year. And that's because like guys got together and said, look, we're going to be on the couch for a few days. Why don't we do it during the first 2 days of March Madness when there's
Oh
a bunch of
my gosh.
basketball on? And that was, you know, that was like a small story that we picked up and wrote about and had like a bunch of funny puns
Yeah.
about, you know, the top seeds make it, and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, that one was always funny and got a lot of pickup. But the past couple of years, I mean, we didn't do it last year. And then this year, everyone's at home anyway. So it didn't really make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that one stands out. And then another one was this special newsletter we did last Memorial Day, where I wanted to do this concept where it was like, let's assume the pandemic didn't happen. What would Morning Brew have written about this day, you know, in the absence of a pandemic? And did like a special newsletter where we basically were like, you know, let's like LeBron in the finals, like Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, said like, you know, Google people or Microsoft can work from home for, you know, on Fridays. And, you know, that was crazy because no one was working from home then.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was really funny. And I mean, we got a lot of a lot of feedback, both positive and negative. A lot of negative people, or a lot of people criticized it for being like, I didn't realize it was fake. You really freaked me out. Like, there's so much fake news about like out there already. Why are you guys adding to that? And then some people on the opposite end were like, this is a really cool experiment. I'm glad you did it. And it really like opened my eyes to the way our world has changed, which was obviously the
The
ultimate
point
goal
of
of
it.
this.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. And then what we're doing now is it's closing out. And again, it relates to March Madness, but it's a bracket related to the greatest product of all time. And we ran like a bunch of Twitter polls around various products. We selected a bracket. We had some cool graphics. And now we're down to two as we record this. It's Google search versus Microsoft Windows.
Oh, there you go.
Pretty much the
That's
giant.
I was gonna say that's a tough one, man. Those are the top. That's
Yeah,
chalk. A lot of chalk going down to the
a lot
end
of
there.
talk.
Well, that's dope, man. That's great to hear. It's always great when you, especially what you guys do. It's like you talk about real stuff, but you say it in a way that is, you know, it's a little tongue in cheek. There is that comedic element to it, so it's not super stuffy. Where it's like, here's the Wall Street Journal, here the New York Times, and it's just like super news based. And
Yeah.
then it's not too far the other way where we're like, hey, we're just a bunch of characters like, you know, shock jocks just saying a bunch of random shit. It's a tiny sliver of that, like the best kind of it, to like make it more digestible and to make it fun, right? So it's not super stuffy, but it is like extremely insightful. And again, the level of consistency that you guys do like day in and day out is just, it's amazing. And I think I'm sure, you know, that's what you guys pride yourselves on too, is really like delivering like every day.
Yeah, I mean, I started, well, like I said, I started in June 2017 when I responded to that email, and I went in the first day and I wrote the newsletter. And then I think I've written it every single day since for the last, you know, 3+ years. we take a little bit of a break during Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, but we
Yep.
still publish a newsletter. We just kind of do a more evergreen topics so we don't have to be on. But yeah, just written a newsletter every day since. It's a grind. There's no question about it. Every single day, every single afternoon, getting into the newsletter mode. Like, what are we going to write about? So yeah, there's no substitute for hard work. Like I write it on Sundays too, and you just make a lot of sacrifices. I mean, I haven't had not a normal Sunday, but like every Sunday morning I wake up and crank out the newsletter, and I don't go to brunch or anything. So
Yeah.
yeah, there are definitely trade-offs for working at a startup, and now we're hiring more writers and I'm training them and they're amazing. I write less of the newsletter now and do more of the editing. So it's like a process of delegating. But I would say, for consistency, it's also like making the work as easy for you as possible, knowing that you have to produce a newsletter. Like, what are some tricks that I can pull that will just like reduce the burden every single day? So we've invested in tech, like that the company is invested in tech, and I'm really grateful for it. That makes the process of sending a newsletter really easy. I've created some like standardized buckets um, in the newsletter that don't require so much like narrative thinking. It's like more like stats and quotes, and I'm like, all right, I can easily port that over and it's still great content, and just like another thing that you don't have to take a bash your brain against the wall.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something you definitely have to love to do it every single day, and I do love it. Maybe I don't know what'll happen in 3 years if I'm still doing the newsletter every single day, but right now I love it, and every day is different. So
That's awesome, man. And I think in this kind of portion, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is really just talk about some of those things, some of those insights that independent artists can take away from what it is that you guys do. And I wanted to start with that level of consistency because I think that's super important. A lot of times artists are just like, I don't want to do this or I don't want to do that. And I think what you just said there really kind of develop it. I think it's really about developing a system, like you were saying. Like, hey, what is the system I can like get myself into so that from day one to day two or day one to day seven throughout the entire week, I know it makes it easier for me to do, and it's not,
yeah,
hey, how do I do this thing from scratch every single day to make this like relevant and funny or whatever it is for my audience? Because like that is impossible. And I think any successful business or idea scales up when it's part of a system.
yeah, that's been a challenge for me, because I'm maybe not the most organized person, but when you develop process, it changes everything. Like, we do a trivia game, or a trivia slot at the bottom of our newsletter every single day. And having to think about, what am I going to do for trivia every day? What am I going to do for trivia every day? Like, that can cause so much stress, and you're just putting more work on your belt. So what we ended up doing is, okay, Saturdays we have a crossword, Fridays we do a brain teaser, Thursday we do another game. And creating those like set things just make a life a lot easier. Then I can say, okay,
Yeah.
like, this writer, you focus on the crossword, this writer, you focus on this particular headline game, what we do. And developing those things, it's like, all right, we delegated, everyone is owning something, so they're doing it better than if one person was doing it like me and had my brain all scattered.
Yeah.
Um, so I totally think that developing systems, planning ahead, knowing what you're doing ahead of time as much as possible, which I think if you're not writing a daily newsletter, you can do a lot more of. I think a daily newsletter, you definitely have to be reactive to the day's news, and you don't know what you're going to put in the newsletter the next day, like 80% of the content. But if you are writing like a weekly newsletter, or your newsletter is not as time based or sensitive to the news cycle, you can definitely plan ahead and create structure where you're not bashing your brain before you put it out every time.
Yeah. Well said. I want to, like I said, get into a little bit more of the newsletter and what it is that you guys do. Want to talk about growth, right? A lot of artists are starting their newsletters these days, especially once the pandemic hit. A lot of people are looking for different revenue sources, trying to add value to their fans' lives. So, what do you think is the biggest growth driver for you guys right now? Obviously, you guys are, with 85 employees, you guys have a budget, so you're able to go out there and spend. But curious what your biggest growth, I guess, two questions. Curious to know what your biggest growth driver is now and what you may recommend for somebody just starting out with a very limited budget. How can they help grow their newsletter, their audience?
Yeah. So a lot of our growth at the beginning of Morning Brew and now relies on reader referrals. And we've developed, or not we, but like one of the original guys at Morning Brew developed a referral system that gamifies sharing the newsletter. It's been so effective. He gets hit up all the time about it. People are like, teach me how you did this. Did you use a service or did you build it yourself? But basically it gamified the referral system so that if you hit 3 referrals, if you refer 3 people to Morning Brew, then you unlock extra content. If you hit 5, you get stickers. If you hit 10, you get a mug. It's very similar to like a loyalty program that any sort of big company runs. And it was pioneered by the Skim newsletter, which was our predecessor kind of. So we took that and it drove so many subscriptions. I don't want to I don't want to say the actual numbers because I don't know, but like very, very significant amount of our growth was due to this referral system. It's really cheap. And it creates a lot of like quality subscribers too, because when your friend tells you that there's this awesome newsletter that I read every day, like you should read it, that person is probably going to be like a better subscriber than if you run like a scammy giveaway or you do like some other program where you're just like aggregating a lot of emails, but you don't know if these people are actually prone to reading business news or like would like your brand. So the referral program has been amazing. And that is definitely my advice for people starting out. At first I'll say, yes, we are a big company now and have a large paid budget for marketing. So at some point we like turned the spigot on, and Facebook and Instagram ads did really well for us at the beginning stages of acquiring subscribers. And now we've branched out. We place ads in other newsletters, which has been also effective because if you're a newsletter person, then you're likely to read other newsletters that are adjacent to the ones you're already reading. So those have been super effective. And then we also have like gone into more influencer marketing now. We sponsor YouTubers and other folks on social media who just say like, I read Morning Brew, you should as well. So it's been both organic and paid that's driven our growth.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I think you hit on one thing in there too, with the referral thing. I think that's like uh, one of the best ways for artists to grow it, because it's like, hey, if you're really adding value to a fan's life,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, they're gonna refer you, and they're now a super fan, right? If they were a casual fan, now they have this opportunity. They're like, oh, let me hit 2 or 3 other people about this so I can get this t-shirt. Like, that shows you that they really care
Yeah.
about you. And if you can grow that number, really kind of becomes a uh, quality over quantity, in that regard. And that's really what you're looking for, because your subscriber, or excuse me, your open rates are like 40 to 50%, which is like unheard of. And I think that is really just a testament to the quality of the people that you guys have.
Yeah. Two things that I'll suggest for people like to get the sharing priming pump going is
Yeah.
first of all, don't be afraid to ask.
Mm.
We every single Friday we used to say like refer, please refer, please refer, please refer. And to us it seemed like a lot, but people won't refer unless you ask. Like, yes, some people will, but you won't get the volume you want unless you're like, if you like this newsletter, please share it with a friend. And it may seem obnoxious to you, but it's really not that obnoxious. Like if people like the newsletter, then they'll share it. And
Yeah.
if it added value to them, then they want to seek status with their friend group and be like, check out this cool thing that I read and I think you'll like it. So you have to ask, or else you'll just never get the volume that you want. I mean, you can run a test and be like, okay, here's my referral numbers. And then the day you ask people to refer, it'll spike and then keep going and then it'll spike again. And that's just what we saw. And then another thing is just make it as easy as possible. The more hoops that people have to jump through to share, then the more they're going to get bored and just like go do something else. So whichever way you can make it, like the sharing journey be like the fewest number of clicks, the least amount of thinking, like the most spoon-fed thing, like copy this, referral jargon into your group chat. Do it now.
Yeah, yeah.
And people, I'm not saying people are robots, but like if you tell them to do that, they like it.
Prompted,
It's
yeah,
so much, it just
yeah.
will make your life so much easier to do something like that.
Yeah, it's really just instructing them, because a lot of people, it's like, especially our generation, how to use technology, but it's also like, okay, what do you want me to do with this?
Yeah.
Like, I need a little bit of guidance here as to how to use it so it's used in the proper context and like achieving the whatever the goal is. And yeah, well said. Um, do you know the service that you guys use for like the referral system?
We built it
Oh, you
in-house.
did.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you know of any other ones that are out there?
I can follow up. I know there definitely are
Oh, you know what?
referral
I was
third
gonna say,
party systems. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say, I think my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just thought of the one that's out there, Spark Loop.
Yeah.
Spark Loop is one that's out there, and they, yeah, I forget exactly how it's set up, but I know they have some sort of referral stuff.
It's
So for
similar.
anybody listening, yeah, check those out.
Yeah, I think they're very powerful. I can't recommend them enough. But like again, just probably every person's case is different. So if you're a
Yeah, yeah,
newsletter, I a lot of sometimes things that work for us was like cross promotion. I know that's huge in podcasts, but if you have a friend who's writing another newsletter that's not competing with yours, why don't you and you have like similar size lists, then why don't you say like, why don't you promote mine? I'll promote yours. We'll both grow. That seems like a very effective way, and that's worked for us as well. We still do that to this day.
nice, nice. Good to know. Thanks for sharing. Um, Want to talk about two other things here. Um, what do you guys think are, well, again, kind of twofold question. What are the biggest metrics that you guys pay attention to today when it comes to your newsletter, and what do you think are the biggest ones that people just starting out should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is the vanity metric, which is overall subscribers. You can get a lot of subscribers. It's cool to say you have a number of subscribers, but with email, something we really pay attention to is something you mentioned earlier, which is open rate. And that's the number of people that are opening your email every day. If you have 1 million subscribers, but your open rate is 2%, then that's pretty crappy. That means a lot of people, people are seeing your email every day and not opening it, or they send it to spam or whatever. So I would argue that is, that million is not something you should pay attention to. It's really the open rate that shows the level of engagement. So that's something that we definitely pay attention to. And one thing we do is it's kind of sad, but sometimes we'll definitely churn our list, which means that
Yeah.
we'll chop down our overall subscribers. We'll say like, okay, these 80,000 people haven't opened for the last six weeks. We'll send them an email, an automated email being like, are you there? Are you dead? Like, what happened? Are you still reading? Like, do you hate Morning Brew? And then if they don't respond to that, we chop them from our list. And so our list is still growing. So obviously like the rate of growth is not, is still exceeding the amount of churn we do. But I would definitely encourage people to keep a clean list for a number of reasons. First of all, you keep your engaged fans around, and you just don't need like extra baggage with people who aren't opening it. And also it increases your like sender reputation via email. Email is really like annoying in many ways, and that it
Yeah.
can go to promotions, it can go to spam, it can like get blocked. The Gmail filters are are definitely a black box and you're not sure, but like the cleaner and more engaged your email list is, the likelier it is that people will see it. So that's just like another little trick that we've learned over the years with email.
Nice, nice. Just made me think of another question. How do you stay out of any advice on how to stay out of the spam and the promo
So
folders?
yeah, like there are certain websites. I would just Google this.
Yeah,
You can there's like certain words that you shouldn't use in subject lines or anything associated with spam, like a billion exclamation marks, like
yeah.
Bitcoin, woo, stuff like stuff like that. You definitely want to avoid because that'll definitely trigger spam filters.
I
Um,
guess, yeah, I guess that's the best way to put it. It's probably, if you think it's spam, if you think it's too salesy, it probably is.
Yeah. You can also in our reader journey, one of the emails we send is you should favorite this email. So that guarantees that it'll hit your primary inbox if it's like a favorited by a user. So
Right.
you
Or
should
added to contacts.
yeah, exactly. Added to
Right,
contacts. It's a
right.
little different for all of the different
Yeah,
email
yeah.
providers, but you should definitely ask your readers to do that to make sure your email gets in the right spot because don't feel bad if your open rate goes down, but it might be because your emails are just not going to the right inbox. And like I said, you have to really spoon feed people, put the stuff in front of them. And if they have to click over one tab to find your email,
Yeah.
then you're just creating more distance between them and your product, and your engagement will just inevitably go down. It could still be an incredible email. Just one extra click could do a lot of damage.
Right, right. Well said. Well said. All right. Well, before we get you out of here, one kind of final question. Any tips for artists that are just starting out when they're creating a newsletter of their own? I'm sure you know of a ton of different people and brands that have their own newsletters. So just kind of curious your thoughts on any insights you might be able to share for somebody who's kind of in the music space.
I guess without knowing exactly what they would want to do, I would say define what you want to get out of it. Like, what is the value prop for the reader? Are you, or your intention for what it means for you personally or your business? So, is it like promoting your existing music? Is it trying to drum up support for like an upcoming show? Is it like supposed to be like pure entertainment and you're not really trying to get out of it, but you're trying to like retain fans and get them, excited for something you're launching very soon. I would just like define what you're using this newsletter for initially, and then things will fall into place. So our newsletter, like our value prop is to make sure that people stay up to date with business news, and if it doesn't fall under that bucket, then we don't include it. So we don't like try to drive people back to our website. That is like a value prop or a stated goal of many publishers like us. They have a website that they monetize, and they use newsletter as a way to
Sure, sure.
drive traffic back to the website. So it's very clear. They have like a lot of links. They have a lot of like teaser stuff. They don't really tell you the full story within the newsletter itself. Meanwhile, we want to tell you the full story because we don't have a website that we monetize yet. And we're just trying to give you everything in that one email. So that's like what we're just trying to accomplish, that particular goal. If we have other goals, then we may want to use our newsletter for that, but we only, we don't do that. So I guess I would just, from an artist point of view, I would say like, what am I trying to get out of this? Is it to like get my fans? Is it just to stay in touch with my fans, like establish community? And then in that case, maybe you could do like a Q&A or other community facing things where you're really interacting with your fans. If you're trying to launch a product, then you probably could design your newsletter in a different way to, make it maximize for that. So that's my thoughts.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Well, we're coming down to time here. Before you head out, just wanted to just check in, see what you're working on, what you're super excited about. where can people contact you if they have something, great story to share or anything like that? And then lastly, what would the name of your personal playlist be? That's my Jesus and Mero question.
I got it. Okay. Let's see. So the first one, what am I excited about? I'm excited that we're growing our team. Honestly, we're hiring a bunch more writers to extend Morning Brew beyond just a daily newsletter into more of like a media company. So we're putting out way more video content. We're putting out more audio content. We're writing for the website and doing fun things like on social, like the greatest product of all time bracket. So I'm really excited to use the daily newsletter to like grow all of these other franchises at Morning Brew, and also use those franchises to bring in people to Morning Brew as well. So, if anyone knows any like amazing creators that focus on business news or news in general, like send them to Morning Brew. Like we're definitely hiring really fast, and we just want like the best people on board. So that is like definitely something I'm excited about.
Nice, that's dope. You guys gonna be? I'm sure you guys have thought about this idea, but you guys gonna be starting your own coffee line at some point here?
I mean, yes, we've like thrown it around for the last 3.5 years. I don't, our mantra has been like, stay focused, stay focused, stay
Yeah, yeah. Keep the
focused. So
main thing the main thing.
maybe now's the time to like play in the sandbox a little bit, but
There you go.
I would say keep your eye out.
Hey, nice. Love it, love it. And yeah,
Um,
where can people get at you if they want to send you some stuff?
they can email me at neal@morningbrew.com, NEAL at morningbrew.com, or I have a Twitter too, which I mean, I'm on Twitter all the time. I don't really tweet a whole lot, but I find
Yeah.
it to be an amazing place to connect with people and
Yep.
consume news and laugh. Like there's so many funny people on Twitter. So
Yeah, man.
that,
I kind of I agree. It's I used to be big on it and now I don't tweet as much, but I'm on there probably every day, every other day. I use it as a source of news too. Like I have
yeah,
my lists where I'm like scrolling through and checking out what's in real time.
yeah. So you can find me on Twitter, and then yeah, the final thing was what's the name of my
Oh yeah, yeah,
playlist?
your personal playlist.
Probably like it would be called "Don't Bother Me" because I don't when I work, I write and I edit, like I need to focus completely. I can't even listen to any music. So what I do is I have this, here's a good plug. This website called asoftmurmur.com.
Okay.
And it's basically like a background noise generator. You can add like coffee shop, thunder, rain, wind,
Okay, yeah,
waves,
yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So that honestly is like what I listen to all the time. I love music, but I think I like it too much because I just get distracted and I can't focus.
Yeah,
So
I'm
that's my
the
playlist. It's like
same.
I listen to like rain and thunder for like 8 hours a day, and
Yeah, man.
probably
I,
must be
I'm I'm right there with you. I can't do sounds in the background. And I actually, it's funny you mentioned that too. Like last week, there's a bunch of like YouTube channels that have like this crazy like imagery, but it'll
Mhm.
be like coffee shop sounds and it'll be like this moving, slow moving picture. It's kind of like those lo-fi hip hop playlists that
Yeah,
have been popping up over the last couple of years too.
I can listen to those, except they just get repetitive. I hear the same
Yeah, I
song
agree.
over again. I'm like, there isn't any new music in this genre. Like they
Yeah.
keep saying the same things over and over again. So
Yeah,
I sometimes go to that if I'm sick of the rain, but
there you go.
for the most part, it's what I listen to and
Yep.
just tease everything out.
There you go, man. All right. Well, Neal, appreciate the time once again, man. Glad you could come on and glad we could make it happen so quick. And thanks for sharing a lot of the insights and what's helped made you guys successful.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.